So the question we're going to look at here involves a bit of statistical work that would come up in National 5 that involves medians, semi-interquartile range, quartiles, and they could lead into box plots if we wanted to, but in this case we don't have to worry about it. So the first part of the question says calculate the median and semi-interquartile range for the temperatures above here. They then give you a second set of data and they want a comparison made between the two of them. Now the comparison part is interesting because you've got to watch how you word the comparison and the kind of things you say. But let's focus on the first part to begin with. So part A, calculate the median and semi-interquartile range for these temperatures. So first thing we have to do is remember what these are. So median, we need to remember that that's the middle number in an ordered list. Semi-interquartile range, that's the difference between the upper quartile and lower quartile. So we need to calculate all those facts as well. Now because we need it in order, first thing you need to do is take your data and just make sure it's in order. Well, in this case it's not, so we have to write it in order now. So if we change the data into an ordered list, we've got 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, then a 7, a 9 and a 10. So now it's in order, I can calculate all the information. So it's a 9-day period, there's 9 bits of data. I want the middle of it, so I've got to go in 4 from the top, 4 from the bottom and find the middle number. In this case it's that one there. So I could say find, so my median is equal to 5 in this case. I then want to look at calculating my upper and lower quartiles. Now, upper and lower quartiles split the data in the upper half and the lower half into half again. So what we do is, because we've got an odd number and our median's landed right in the middle, what we do is we ignore this and we find the middle of each of these sets of data on each side. Now the lower side of data has 2 3s and 2 4s. So it's got 4 elements, which means that the middle lands in between the second and the third bit of data. So what we do is we find the middle, i.e. the average of these two. So we do 3 plus 4, which is 7, divide it by 2, so my lower quartile here is 3.5. Do the exact same thing up the top here. So again, I've got 4 bits of data, so my quartile lands in there between the 7 and the 9. 7 plus 9 is 16, divide it by 2, and I get my upper quartile as being 8. So using the proper notation, we know that Q1, which is what we use for the lower quartile, that's equal to 3.5, and Q3, which you know is the upper quartile, is equal to 8. If you wanted to get technical, the median here would be denoted as Q2, which is equal to 5. What we now want is the interquartile range. Now the interquartile range is the difference between the upper and the lower quartile in half. So what we do in order to be able to calculate this one is we do 8 take away 3.5. So 8 minus 3.5 gives me 4.5, and then I'd divide that answer by 2. So I'd cut it in half. 4.5 divided by 2 gives me 2.25. So there you go. You've got your semi-interquartile range there. Now this question would be worth 3 marks. First mark for getting the median. Second mark for getting both your quartiles, not just one but both. And then your third mark for getting your semi-interquartile range. So that would be the first part. That would be our calculating the data and calculating the information we need. The second part now, we have to make the valid comparison. So we've got a second set of data. We have to take our first set of data and make 2 valid comparisons comparing the temperatures between the 2 places. Now for both bits of data, you're given the median and you're given the semi-interquartile range. So when you get 2 things like that to compare, you have to make a comparison involving both. You can't leave one of them out. This is a 2-mark question. You have to make a comparison using the median, and you have to make a comparison using the semi-interquartile range. Now we know the median is a type of average. So when we make this comparison, we look at an on average type of comparison. So on average, this was bigger than that. On average, this was higher than that. That sort of comment is what we would need to make. So for this one, we'd have a look at comparing the medians. So the median for this one in Endoch was 8 degrees Celsius. The median of the one that we originally had, so Grantford, was 5. So Grantford has a lower median than Endoch. So there's 2 ways we can make this comment. The first way we can make this comment is we can say that Endoch has an average higher temperature than Grantford does. Or we could say it the other way, And we could say that on average, Grantford has a lower temperature than Endach. Doesn't matter which way around you do it, the key thing is you get the right way of the comparison. If we'd said Endach has on average a lower temperature than Grantford, we'd have done that the wrong way around, so we would lose the mark for that case. So median, you have to make sure that you look at averages and you have to include that phrasing. It's not worth saying the median of Endach is 8, the median of Grantford is 5. You have to then say what that specifically means. They can read numbers, they want to see if you can interpret it. Then they want you to do something involving the semi-interquartile range. Now the semi-interquartile range, or ranges just in general, look at the consistency of data. A bigger range means there's a wider spread of data, so there's less consistency between it. Now the semi-interquartile range of the second set of data, Endach was 1.5 degrees. The semi-interquartile range of the first set of data for Grantford was 2.25 degrees. So again, there's two ways round we can do this comparison. What we could say is the semi-interquartile range of Endach was lower than that of Grantford, therefore the temperatures were more consistent in Endach. Or we could say that the semi-interquartile range of Grantford was higher than Endach, so the temperatures were less consistent in Grantford than they were in Endach. We have to make sure that we get these the right way round. You get 1 mark for each of those comparisons. Now it may take a sentence, it may take 2 sentences, but you have to get them explained properly. So you have to use the terms consistency, you have to use the term on average when you're looking at the medians, or whatever version of the average it is it gives you. Make sure you interpret these correct and you make a comment on both of them if you want to obtain all the marks within that question. Because as I said, you get 1 for median and you get 1 for semi-interquartile range.